Rotation. It's an inevitability in the Pokemon TCG scene that once a year a bunch of sets will be rotated out to keep the game fresh and healthy. Now, when rotation happens, a lot of decks are changed permanently, and the metagame has changed completely because a lot of core pieces are missing. So today's video is something that's been in high demand from a lot of people in my DMs, in comments, etc. What are the current existing standard format decks going to be losing to the upcoming rotation? Rotation will go into effect on April 14th, 2023, which will introduce one more major expansion, which is Crown Zenith on January 20th, I think it's released. That will add a new set of like 180 cards into our pool, but there's a majority of the set being reprints, so for all intents and purposes, I don't think the format will change too much, and well, we're not losing any of those cards because they're brand new. So we're going to look at the top 7 decks in the current existing standard format and say, hey, if you are looking to invest into the Pokemon TCG right now, which deck will you lose the least in? What are you losing the least cards in? And what are the changes that's going to happen? What's going to happen in that regard? I'm going to explain that to you, break it down really quickly. If you like this kind of content, also thank you to everyone who threw out their suggestions to do something like this, because it's something that's interesting to me, interesting to you guys, helps you guys a ton for newer players as well and experienced players. All I ask of you is you throw a like, a subscription, and a comment. It helps the channel a ton. And that's really all I ask of you guys. So please enjoy the content. And if, well, you don't want to do any of those things, I just got to work harder to earn your subscription. So we had 7 decks in this Silver Tempest format that's been going on for about a month and a half now. And for lack of better terms, these 7 are probably not going to be shaken up too much until the end of April, when we get that rotation coming in. Lugia Archeops taking up 45% of the share. Lost Box Zone taking up 15%. Mew 13, and lack of better terms, 4th through 7th are like a little bit around the 5% slice of the pie, but still a pretty big chunk. So we're going to start looking at decks. This is the most recent winners list from Arlington, Connor Fenton's Lugia V-Star. Now, if you're looking to jump into the game, you're thinking, wow, Lugia's been dominating the Pokemon scene. I should just pick up a Lugia deck. It's probably $120 to $150. I can pick up a tier 1 deck for that cheap and jump into the game. Well, to also put in perspective, every other tier 1 or every other Pokemon deck is like $60 right now. So you don't have to invest into Lugia immediately. But we're going to look at the cards that Lugia will be losing. Off the bat, you guys are probably thinking, it's not that much it's losing, but I compiled it. Lugia will be losing its amazing rare Pokemon, which are all in the Vivid Voltage, Rebel Clash sets. So those will be gone. Oranguru, a little bit of a consistency card, also leaving the format. Marnie, a very crucial card to make sure you don't have to discard some of those important supporters. Yes, Judge will replace that, but it's fine. Birdkeeper leaving as an option to deal with paralysis. Quick Ball and Evolution Incense being 2 of the most powerful consistency cards in the standard format, leaving the deck as well. And well, pretty much every single special energy that Archeops wants to accelerate, Powerful, Capture, Aurora, Heat, all gone. All we're keeping is a V-Guard and the Double Turbo, baby. Most of the skeleton will stick around. You can still get your Primal Turbos off. You can still get your Archeopses off with Ultra Balls and use your researches and setup, but you're losing a lot of that flavorful attackers that the deck comes with. And this is kind of a skeleton of what we're losing, which is about a pretty big chunk of the deck and the identity of the deck. So while Lugia V-Star will stick around, in 4 months, it will be forced to change its identity into something different, maybe a supporting role with Archeops in the back helm. Who knows? Maybe Lugia as a whole will just fall off onto the wayside. Next up, oops, that's my bad. Next up, we've got Mew VMAX. Now, Mew VMAX has been pretty much only printed in the Fusion Strike set. Like, the whole block came together. It was the most, like, easy, like, A plus B equals C type of thing, or like 1 plus 1 equals 2 type of deal with the Fusion Strike build. It made a lot of sense. You didn't really have to think about putting the whole combo together, and DTE versions have come about as well. Now, Pokemon Catcher and Switch are 2 of the cards that are like most notably meant to rotate in this expansion, or this deck, but they were both reprinted either in the F block or upcoming in the G block, I believe, which is the new set. I think Catcher is reprinted in Scarlet and Violet, and it's already been leaked as a reprint, so we're keeping that card around. Ultra Ball will also be around as a reprint. So Mew is only losing Marnie and Quick Ball, which is actually not that bad, because if you lose Quick Ball, you can replace it with a couple of counts of Nest Ball and up your counts of things like Cram, get those discard fodder running. And so if you're a new player looking to invest into a deck right now, Mew is probably the best deck to pick up, just because it's losing the least amount of resources moving forward. And you could probably still play this deck 5-6 cards different, given the rotation in 4 months. This deck will not change too much. It will be pretty much the same for its entire lifetime, and it will still be one of the more powerful decks that exists. Moving up to next is Lost Box, and like this is the amazing rare version, or that did very well. So I'm going to use this as an example because the other version doesn't really change too much. It's just got a couple of different attackers that'll stick around, but the crucial parts of the injured are not the attackers that are rotating, but some of the supporting cast that we see. We're going to be losing Amazing Rare Rayquaza along with the Amazing Rare attackers, Zigzagoon for that extra damage, which is very crucial, Scoop Up Net, which is probably one of the best cards in this deck, simply to move around your Comfies, move around your attackers, reuse that Radiant Greninja, reuse that Zigzagoon. Like, it's one of the most versatile and best cards in this deck, and losing that is actually a pretty big blow to the deck as a whole. You also lose Ordinary Rod, which is like a very, very, very good resource to just bring back those energies, bring back those attackers that we're haphazardly discarding in the early game. And we're also losing Quick Ball. And now, just to make it worse, even though we're losing Quick Ball, we're also losing Capture Energy, which is another way to search out your early engine and get set up. Air Balloon, another way to pivot your card. Your Comfy is also going to be gone. There's that new stadium that'll be coming out that lets you retreat for free. But Training Court also will be leaving, giving you a really poor way to get energies back into your hand. The engine is still very strong, but it's going to have to change its ways and play probably more switching cards, more ropes, more of these cards that aren't Scoop Up Net to use Comfies over and over and over again, creating this infinite cycle of Comfy. Next up, we have Palkia, a deck that's been dominant since the Astral Radiance format. Yeah, I think so. And while Palkia is going to take a pretty big blow, because I wanted to just highlight this deck because of this really cool engine called the Shady Dealings engine, which has been so dominant since its release. Well, the Shady Dealings engine will be losing both of the Shady Dealing guys. Both Drizzle and Inteleon will be rotating in this upcoming expansion or rotation. We'll also be losing Marnie and Quick Ball and Incense, more crucial cards to this engine, as well as Net. Capacious Bucket is a new one to talk about as well, because Capacious Bucket was one of the better cards that you could grab off of Irida to kind of fuel this Radiant Greninja on turn 1 and fuel this Palkia to just get the ball rolling a lot of the time. Make sure you get that energy attachment, and we're going to be losing that card as well in this Palkia engine. So this whole deck will have to be completely different. The Irida engine is still very strong, but you no longer have that acceleration or the way to find the energies with the bucket, and the way to find all your pieces for everything with the Inteleon. So you're not going to have to play it completely different, and not play as many one-ofs and tech cards, and be as cute with the deck as you can. Regigigas, a deck that's near and dear to my heart. Well, all the attackers are sticking around, if that makes you guys feel any better, but we are losing Marnie, Quick Ball, Rod, Net, Yellhorn, Balloon, and more importantly, and more depressingly, all of the special energy that make this deck good. Losing Aurora Energy gets rid of that splash ability of any attacker being viable in this deck at any given moment. Losing Speed means that you lose the ability to use that Aleki powerfully in any matchup. Losing the Twin means that Gigas also gets significantly worse and harder to attack with if you use Double Turbo. And losing the Capture Energy means that your early game setup is going to be stifled because you cannot find those pieces. So Regigigas is probably going to die off the back of this, which is really depressing. But unless like a new Aurora comes around, I'm sorry, buddy, you're gone. Arceus Duraludon and Arceus decks in general have the shell. The shell of Arceus plus attacker will stick around, but what does the deck actually lose that makes it maybe a little bit worse? Well, it's going to lose Quick Ball, Incense. Incense is a very good card for just setting up your Arceus decks. In this particular build, there is the Eldegoss V and the Pokegears, which are, I guess, played in some of these versions, because after you use Starbirth, you have to pretty much manually find those supporters every turn, unless you're playing Luminion and cards like that, and well, those are going to be gone. Hyper Potion will be gone as well, making Duraludon a little bit more malleable, and we'll use Big Parasol. But, I mean, the cards that you're trying to Big Parasol around will also be gone, like Yveltal. So, Arceus Duraludon, going to be taking a little bit of a beating, but Arceus will still be around for the long haul. So if you're investing in Arceus decks, I'm sure that Arceus plus attacker variants will be very successful. Now, last but not least, Control is a deck I want to talk about, because Control archetypes always lose something, and they have to change and evolve over the course of rotations, and this time, it's also no exception. Control will be losing one of the biggest pieces that it's probably gotten in a long time, which is the Gormandize Snorlax, which fills your hand to 7 and ends your turn. Losing Gormandize Snorlax will severely inhibit the setup of these control decks. Eldegoss will stop them from infinitely looping supporters. Birdkeeper being one of the bigger ones to keep moving your pieces around. Obviously, with no Snorlax and no Birdkeeper, you don't need Birdkeepers or Net if you have a big, like, no Snorlax in the active. Palpad being gone is also huge, because now you're reliant on Team Yell's Cheer, as well as, which is not in this list actually, Team Yell's Cheer plus like Sileens to continue looping infinitely. You will lose Galar Mind. Two big things have higher retreat in the active spot, and more specifically, Cape of Toughness to give those basic, like Pokemon like Miltank, a little bit of extra HP. Twin Energy also makes it easier for you to attack, because now you don't do the minus 20 from Double Turbo, but now that also becomes a side effect. So if you're looking to invest, my TLDR is Lugia is probably not the best thing to invest in if you're not going to play in any competitive events for the next 4 months. Mew, great thing to invest in. Mew is probably the best deck to invest in. Lost Box, I wouldn't invest in either. It is a very cheap deck though, so if you want to pick up the Comfies, the Colruses, you may as well pick those up. Palkia, just don't even touch it. Regis, I'm sorry, don't touch it. RCS is fine. Pick up your RCSs, pick up your attackers. Feel comfortable with it. Control, I wouldn't touch. So basically, if you're trying to invest in the game and come back into it right now for something 4 months down the line, Mew and basically just RCS are probably the two best things to invest in. And then whatever happens, happens. So I hope this video helped out for anyone who's newer. I tried to break it down as best as I could. Again, if you enjoyed the content, like and subscribe, and leave other helpful prompts for me to answer from a competitive player's standpoint in the comments below, because this is something I really enjoy doing. But yeah, thank you guys so much. Have a happy holidays. Sorry about my voice. I've been a little bit sick for the last couple days. So it's finally coming back. That's why it took me a little bit of time to record this video. So yeah, peace out. Thank you so much.